Greetings, I'm Ray Carnicelli from lax904.com, and welcome to Faces of Lacrosse in North Florida, brought to you by North Florida Oral and Facial Surgery. I'm joined today with Garrett Luebker. Garrett, how you doing today?
Ray, I'm doing great. How you doing?
Very well. Have Garrett here today. For many of you who followed us on the radio last year, Garrett was my studio partner on This Week in North Florida Lacrosse, and we had a lot of fun doing that last year, didn't we?
It was an absolute blast talking about lacrosse on Sunday mornings.
You know, we got to see a lot of high school games. You and I watched the JU games. We watched a lot of college games together, and to be able to get together on the radio and kind of do what you and I do on the couch, kind of talk back and forth, was a lot of fun.
Kind of hash it out on a week-to-week basis. It's always a good time, I think. A lot of good teams out there, you know.
Yeah, and this year, especially, the competitive nature of lacrosse in North Florida has gone through the roof. A leveling off of the talent. You still have, Ponte Vedra high on the mountain.
Yep.
What are your thoughts on the coming season for high school lacrosse?
A lot of coaching changes have happened. A lot of shifting. A lot of new guys, a lot of new faces, some old faces to new places, which is exciting. Obviously, Pat Arnett taking over Nease is big. Coaching change in Episcopal.
Yep. Glenn Carter over at Episcopal. We've got Brian Silcock at
Bowles.
in
Bowles. So.
New coach at Providence. New coach at St. Augustine. New coach at Mandarin. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting to see what kind of philosophies are brought forth. What the new guard brings in, defense, offensively. When you look at some guys coming in with different athletes, I think you'll see some change up, perhaps on the field.
So your plans? We're here just before a Nease High School fall ball practice. You're going to be on the staff at Nease?
On the staff at Nease, new for this year. Close to Nease, I've been coaching at Bowles over the since '97. Took off, for Navy, whatever. 2002 came back a little bit, but I've always seen Nease as a good competitive school. Given the opportunity, wanted to see them kind of climb back up the ranks. I think it's a good opportunity to do that right now, so I decided to get back in the game.
So you're going to be coaching with Coach Harnett and a great staff out here. And one of the things that Nease has at its disposal is a pretty good youth feeder programs, both down at Palencia and the Villages, and also some of the kids that have played in the Ponte Vedra youth over the years.
Yeah, obviously Ponte Vedra youth, we got some Creekside guys. We got, it's a good feeder league, which is really, really good. So you can focus on the fundamentals offensively, defensively. Don't have to necessarily focus on catching and throwing. Obviously, that's the most important thing. But you can spend your time teaching, defensive philosophies and not worry about the ball hitting the ground a whole lot. And same thing on the offensive side, which is good, and that's what feeder programs are for.
And there's been a shift from the time that you and I, you grew up in Long Island playing multiple sports. I believe you were a soccer player in the fall, as was I. Nowadays, different schools, it's different. There's some high schools that I've been to a few practices where they have hardly any kids playing fall sports other than lacrosse. Then you have some schools where they still have football players and guys run cross country and so forth. What does it mean for an athlete to just focus on lacrosse?
It comes on a coaching philosophy. I personally, and this is a personal opinion, I like the guys being able to get out, play soccer, play football, play basketball, see the different sports. From a sports education side, you learn a lot more by doing different things. Just focusing on lacrosse year-round, one, you got a high rate of burnout. I played soccer since I was a little boy, and I got burned out when I got to high school. And I got burned out in junior high, and that was bad things. I love soccer, but and the same thing potentially can happen with lacrosse. And just being able to see the broad array. Each sport brings a different thing. Basketball brings a lot of picks and moves. Soccer, you got full field run. It's good to see the play happen. Soccer, you got to think like chess, 3 or 4 moves down the line.
How to show for your team.
How to show for your team, exactly.
Create space.
Create space. And so, my personal opinion is, it's good for 1 day a week, maybe 2 days a week to get out in the fall. Keep the stick in your hand.
Get on the wall.
Get on the wall. Do that. A little bit of organization's nice, but you know what? If you're playing football, don't feel bad about it.
Yeah, and I agree. And I think the other thing is it's important for young players, whether it's middle school or high school, to hear from different coaches, to hear different coaches' voices and philosophies. Because when you're with the same coaches over and over again, some younger players have a tendency to shut it down and go through the motion. So I think it's good to change up from that standpoint and keep it fresh.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you get different coaches' philosophy, whether it's even the goal in the cage, we might tweak a little thing here and there. The two we might teach a little something different
over at bowls,
and so to have a goalie, have a couple different coaches, hear what they have to say, hear different things. It's beneficial for the player, just because you're gonna get to college, and ultimately, going to college to do that. And then at that point, that's where you get molded the way the defense is playing, and that's how your goalie play has to kind of stand out as well. So
when getting back to the whole fall ball thing, whether it's a high school program like here at Nease today, or college with JU kicking off their fall ball with a scrimmage coming up on October 3rd that we'll talk about in our newsletter. What are some of the things that the coaches are looking for from the players in the fall?
What I'm looking for is I want to see the athletes. I'm not necessarily looking for guys who just know the game right away and get in there and can make an impact. I mean, it's fall ball. It's supposed to be for fun. Get out and have a fun time. Obviously you want to keep a stick in your hand. It's kind of our way to get the kids to practice a little bit in a group environment. Catching and throwing, I mean, it's just a big thing. It's different in high school, obviously, than college. You're trying to put, like, college, a little bit of initial offense and defense in, see how the kids move. Obviously, it's a freshman class coming in. You want to evaluate them a little bit and see, your sophomore to junior group, see how they're doing as well. So kind of a little bit different on the high school level than as college, but I just want to be able to inject just a little bit of a philosophy that we're going to preach during the actual season.
And I think you're not here to just drill conditioning, because it's a long time till February and the games start. But guys learn right away, and I noticed it. I've been to a couple high school practices already, shooting on some goalies and watching drills. The guys realize, well, you know what? I may be out of shape, even though it's this time, because they may be playing fall ball, but that's different than conditioning and lacrosse conditioning. So I think it's a good measuring stick, especially at the college level, to see where guys are conditioning-wise.
Yeah, I mean, you can bring in, I know in Navy, during the fall ball, if you came in and you weren't running, the freshmen obviously had no problem being in shape, because we just got out of plebe summer, so we were in shape, so we're be able to run around. And then you have the sophomore and junior guys, usually are the ones who would be a little bit out of shape coming off of cruise and whatnot, and it lets the coaches know, okay, this is what we need to work on in the off season, whether it's lifting or conditioning or sprinting, whatever it is, and we build that workout accordingly. So and also determines like how early we need to get out. Into the gym or out to the field and do sprints, and then when our season actually starts January 2nd. So it's it helps them out that way as well.
Well, talking about Jacksonville University, I'm looking forward to the scrimmage for a couple of reasons. One is I want to see if anyone shines, any of the new guys shine. Yeah. Last fall at Jacksonville University, there were a lot of guys banged up. Two big impact players, Duncan Clancy, who's now graduated, and Tom Moore transferred. So neither one of those guys participated in the fall, and the injuries. But now coming in, Tom Moore's there, Rob Moore's there. Peter DeLuca's gone, and Bass Barfield may be primed to hold down the position. So talking about the fall and a scrimmage, what can the people who follow our live blog from the game, or those who are fortunate enough to get to the game, what should they look for?
Obviously question marks in goal. Peter DeLuca's been there for 4 years straight. He's pretty much been the staple. So new blood in the goal. We want to see what they brought in, and obviously and Bass. And so we'll see what goes on there. Obviously the face-off, we want to see great improvement there. And if I'm Coach Ben Arsdale, I'm looking at hopefully the guys aren't throwing the ball away. Ball control is a big thing. I think they spend a little bit too much time on defense because they drop the ball on offense.
And man down.
and so, I think that's what the coach is looking for, see what kind of control we can get from the attack, and then what kind of push we can get from the middies. But those question marks at goal and at the midfield X, we all seen how important it is to win the face-offs.
You've got Connor Igo coming back, who was lost to injury in the first game of last season. He's a very mature player. You've got Dakota Rowland. You've got depth at the midfield with Quentin Miller. There's a number of guys that we'll talk about more as the time comes. I want to see 3 or 4 impact players. If Jacksonville University wants to be a top 30 team, they can't be here. They've got to find guys better than the ones they have. And I know that sometimes sounds harsh, but they They did not win in the semifinals of the ASUN last year. Now they're in the Southern Conference. They've got to show marked improvement.
Yeah, and the big thing is recruiting class. How good did we get transfers in, and did we get a good freshman class coming in? And I think that'll be the first indication to see how many freshmen are actually on the field, who's there, and who can make an impact. Typically when you're recruiting, you kind of know a little bit about your freshmen, but until he gets on the field with other guys who are up here, you go from the high school to college level, it's a jump. So you get an attackman in there and see how well he takes a check from a senior. Sometimes you're impressed, sometimes you're not. So it kind of lets you know, and the coaches will look and say, these are guys that we want to build around, or these guys we need to sit, good backups, whatever. So I think for me, that's what I'm looking at, is how the recruiting class came in.
I feel right now that I could mark down a starting lineup for Jacksonville University and probably be pretty close. You've got that third attack position with Ari Waffle not returning,
right.
But Chase McIntyre's back. Will he make a leap? Will he step up into a top Division I athlete? He's a big, strong Canadian with good hands.
Yeah.
But can he be a guy who plays in traffic and a go-to guy? And that's what JU needs.
Yeah, that's exactly what you need, a dominant force in the attack. A guy who plays smart, that, if they know the defense has been on there, down by 3 goals, defense is playing a long time, you control the ball a little bit, maybe not drop the ball, maybe, but not stall. We want to be able to do that, and hopefully that happens, and we'll see what goes on. I'm always interested to see what the coaches are bringing forth. So
yeah, and for that alumni game, from what I hear, the alumni that are coming back, they're going to have a very good team. How they play it, how they're coached, are they very choosy about who gets on the field? Because sometimes those alumni games, Jacksonville University wants to make this a competitive game where they test their players. Well, you might have to shorten the bench a little bit, at least in the first half. So it's going to be interesting to see how the alumni play it. But if you have guys like Cam Mann and TJ Canary, and they've heard they've got a couple of their goalies coming in, so they could have a pretty stout team. Max Borowski and just a number of the alumni that I look forward to seeing. So we'll see. We've got a few of the JU guys out here helping to coach. I see Ty Black over there walking this way. He's a guy that I'm sure he's anxious to get out there, and now that he's on the alumni side playing against his former teammates.
Yep.
So that's October 3rd. We'll keep everyone up to date on our live blog that we plan on doing that evening from Jacksonville University. So Garrett, we've got the radio show coming up in the spring, starting early. The Moe's Sunshine Classic. Rumor has it it's going to be Army versus Jacksonville University, one of your favorite teams.
It would be nice to see some advertising,
so
we know that.
Well, it hasn't been released yet, but a little birdie told me that
right.
It's a pretty sure thing, and I think we'll hear about that pretty soon. But it's early this year.
That's going to be a tough matchup, by the way.
Yeah, so
Army's good.
Yeah, the most classic's been that way. Jacksonville's had Georgetown, Ohio State.
Yep.
Navy was a pushover.
That was a pushover.
Last year obviously we saw what happened with the Notre Dame debacle. I think it's good for Jacksonville. We've talked about it. Their schedule was so front-loaded and difficult.
Yeah.
You want some wins early. And hopefully the schedule this year allows for some of those wins early.
Yeah, once again, go talk about philosophies. You front end the schedule, kind of say, hey, this is the competitions that's out there. Go to the ASUN or the last year.
It's the Southern Conference.
Have the Southern Conference this year, and then build up, because it's a building process. What you want to go in tough, and then build up what you're coaching there. And maybe when you get into your conference, you win the conference out, and you know what to expect when you get to the NCAAs. Or don't front load your schedule. Play kind of a somewhat weak Southern Conference, and then kind of stroll in and play like a Duke, and they're playing at a whole different level.
Well,
it's as a coach, you got to make that choice.
It sounds like it's going to be Army and then Duke again this year.
So. If they're doing Army and Duke, I know, having watched Army last year and having a couple guys that I know, they looked very impressed. They got a good team coming back, so I'll see. They're probably going to win the Patriot. Unfortunately, it pains me to say that, but they probably are. A lot of 1-goal losses, and a young team, and they were well coached last year, so that's going to be a tough game.
Well, we all went into last year expecting big things out of JU, and I think to a man, the staff over there and the players over there would probably agree that it was disappointing, but the expectations this year should be just as high. Winning a Southern Conference with Bellarmine coming in is going to make it more difficult.
Yep.
High Point and Richmond and Mercer and all of those schools, none of those guys are backing up.
No.
So it's going to be a fun season.
Yep.
Well, we've got practice starting here in a little bit. Let's go shoot on some goalies and have some fun. and appreciate you taking some time, and I'm sure we'll talk again soon.
Absolutely.
Thanks.